I think it looks good.
Okay, I need you to sit. You're gonna be down. Down. All the way down. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You're gonna probably have to cut parts with her.
Yeah. I like editing.
Yeah, good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay, I have to look there. Hi, my name is Korey Matlock. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am a local healer and work in a lot of community justice areas. So, yeah.
So I guess we should just get started with your upbringing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Bakersfield, California. Daughter of a cop. I have an older sister. And growing up as a police officer's daughter, I was actually a really good kid. I didn't get into any working with plant medicines until I was about 21 years old. Yeah, I think it was my 21st birthday I smoked cannabis. But it was definitely really challenging to watch my dad arrest family members for, I guess, being caught under the system of drugs. And so it was really hard to watch that, having a different experience with certain plants like cannabis as a healer, and watching that happen with my aunts who were using it when they were working with epilepsy and cancer. So, but it was really hard to grow up and to have any freedom to like question anything. And it even I remember going to a high school football game, and I came home and I had a headache when I was there, and I took some aspirin. And when I got home, I don't know how my behavior was to my dad. Like, I just came from a football game. We won. I drove all my friends home from the game and stuff, and he asked me what I was on. And I was just like, what am I on? I'm nothing. He's like, well, what did you take? What did you take? And I was like, I took aspirin. I had a headache. I was driving everybody. Like, I didn't do anything. And so that right there, like, was my clue. Like, okay, there's something I'm missing. And why is aspirin such a big deal? And I want to move away. And so that was pretty much it. When I turned 18, I went up into the woods, into the sequoias, and became a camp counselor and just kind of disappeared.
Oh, wow.
And my grandfather, when my job ended up in the mountains over the summer as a camp counselor there out of high school, I went back to Bakersfield, and a friend of mine saw me because I didn't want to go to my dad's. I didn't want to go to my grandfather's or my grandmother's, and so I was staying at a hotel, just like, all right, well, I'm here with all this money, like, what am I going to do? And I decided to come to Minnesota and live with my mom, where, because I was not under a rulership of a police enforcer and being a part of a system that has entrapped many black men and has criminalized plants, I was able to come here and really be in touch with nature and to really have access to, well, actual drugs, and then plant healers to heal me from my experiences with the drugs. And so, it's a very convoluted upbringing in the way that the law is skewed, and so innately I knew there was something not right about my dad's line of work and how he was, as a black man, being forced to entrap other black men. And so, just wanting to undo all that. And, I was kind of like primed to be a cop growing up, being raised and, being a gay woman and all that. And, oh, Korey, you're going to do this, and your sister's going to be a lawyer, you're going to do this. And it's just like, no, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to serve justice my way, in the way that feels congruent in myself. And so me, like, being here in this world of being a cop's kid and advocating for plants that have been demonized and drugs that have been demonized, that have actually helped people. Even LSD has really helped a lot of people with psychosis and working through a lot of things. And so yeah, it's just nice to be able to come from both experiences now and to be very have candor about it. And I think that's, overcoming the fear to even, speak about it is just huge. And so we're all brave for being in this space today. And at least we know we have each other's support. But yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of it.
So you chose Minnesota because your mom was here. Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Was she more open to experimentation with substances?
My mom was really amazing. The 5 years that I was actually doing a drug, meth, the only thing she ever said to me, she was so unconditional, she's like, do you want me to help get you into treatment? And I said, no, I can do it myself. And I did. I mean, pretty much that's when I found mushrooms. And it was just that process of being able to really understand their frequency and to know, like, oh my gosh, these are here to reprogram my brain. But my mom, yeah, she's just always been very open and accepting of who I am. But I also had a strong will, so there's nothing she could really tell me. And, it was always hard to assert authority over me just because I just know these things innately to me that are not in alignment. And so, but yeah, she was just always really open and just let me be who I am. I think, the hardest part for her was just seeing, like, okay, my kid's life is falling apart and I can't do anything. And so how do I help pick her up and help her put her pieces back together? But in your 20s, you're supposed to fall apart. So, I mean, I think, yeah, she did a great job at just, like, holding space and not judging the experience because we had an experience with my dad that she knows caused a lot of pain. And so she recognized the pain. And I guess that's pretty much how I can say that. And yeah.
Have you ever had an experience together?
No. Oh wait, I smoked cannabis with her once. And it was really funny and I wouldn't do it again.
You wouldn't do it?
No. I had to watch over her a lot, and she has a lot of fear, so I don't want to, like, really push it. And I can say that yes, I smoked. I smoked a joint with my mom. But I've talked to her about working with mushrooms and working with CBD, and she's older, and so she definitely has the pharmaceutical or the saviors, and that's why I say, like, she's just always allowed me to just, like, use my own discernment in that. And we just have the agreement, like, okay, you put your faith in that and I put my faith in this, and we're good. It's no different than what we're dealing with the foreign enemies they want to inject into people right now. So it's like,
so you talked a little bit about how your journey with plant medicine began. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more? And, like, how it's evolved to now?
Okay, so I guess smoking cannabis my first time, my 22nd birthday, actually, is my 22nd birthday. And from that, it led down the road into trying harder things and then wanting to recover from that and working with the mushrooms. And the mushrooms taught me how to journey into the spirit world and to get into my own head and find out where my disconnects were. But I met spirit guides along the way. And so once the mushrooms came in and I was like, oh, I can get into this world and I can do this work in this world with these mushrooms. So from that, journeying for a month with healing my own brain from, 5 years of using meth, I started working at the co-op, and from the co-op, just furthering working with even, opium. Started working with opium, and then from the opium came the ayahuasca. And that actually was introduced to me by my ex-partner, and she brought it up to me because it was something she thought that I would work well with. And I was just like, well, what makes you say that? Because she couldn't explain to me what it was, but what she did say to me is that you drink this stuff, it's thick like molasses, it's really dark, and you can purge cancer with it. And that right there, because I just always had this bend towards healing naturally and natural healing, I started opening up to it more. And then my friend Jeremy at the time, probably maybe a month later, started talking about, hey, you need to come and meet this man with me. He pours this ayahuasca. And he gave me a book about it, and I held the book. I just kept the book. It sat on my front seat of my car for about a month, and I never opened up that book. It was almost like just having its frequency there with me is what brought me into ceremony. And so I guess a few years go by this time I'm 40, and my friend Chris and my friend Jeremy took me to an ayahuasca ceremony, and that just changed everything. It changed everything. It changed my ability to perceive the world as it really is. But to have that spiritual direction in that world too, because you meet your guides when you're in that world, if you allow that to come in. And it just kept going. So I guess that was 2009, my first journey with grandmother ayahuasca. And all the way up until last year, learning the do's and the don'ts has been the biggest journey with that one. If you are not in a stable mindset, you have no business approaching her. And so that's like one of the things I learned watching other people, but also when you have critical health issues, know your health issues going into it too. Because you know what? If you're not in the proper container, meaning the jungle, a lot can go wrong because the jungle is the proper design of it. But if you can recreate a container and, with it not being legalized right now, I mean, you can't really run into a hospital with somebody that's been on grandmother. And so that, watching people be faced with that with me and their ceremonies, like, it has brought me to a different place of really, the medicine deserves, people deserve the access to it, but also the information and the legalization has to be there. And that's like, coming into being with these spirits in a very sacred way is really important. And so I'm here to advocate for that, like for everybody to have access and learn the protocols and be able to have the experience of knowing what a drug is and what a drug isn't. So.
And speaking on legalization, we talked a little bit about this
Yeah.
earlier, but how do you feel about legalization versus decriminalization?
I think we need to decriminalize it, and I think the legalization of it is just for profiteering. I don't think the legalization, neither should exist. And I just, but we're in a three-dimensional place that we're, where, it's called one thing or it's called another, but I think we definitely need to decriminalize it, and a lot of people need to get set free that are in jail for no reason other than a fictitious rule to create a monopoly and a prison system. So I'm tired of seeing people go to jail for wanting people to get better. And I think there's that part where when your intention with it isn't good and things get really dirty and shady, that's kind of what you're going to get. But when you're coming with it from a pure heart as the intention of gifting it, it's a medicine and it's there to help people. And we also need to start documenting. Like I've been documenting my experience. My doctor, with what I have going on with my autoimmune, which is what brought me into that journey with grandmother, is to really explore that and to work with what was broken in my soul aspect. And I guess that's a deeper question to the previous question, a deeper answer. that everybody deserves that. Not everybody can afford to go to Peru or to go to these places, but everybody can grow something. Everybody can grow psilocybin. Everybody can sit with that medicine in the safety of their home. You know, the other medicines, they are, well, they have different settings, but the mushrooms belong everywhere. You know, so you take the peyote out of the desert, you're still not going to get the whole experience unless you're in the desert, you know, and unless you're with a medicine man. And the same with ayahuasca, you know, the experience isn't going to be the same here in the United States. The frequency is different. And so that's, you know, I just, you know, even I myself not have been gone to Peru yet, it's still very essential to understand the dietas of it and all the different dietas that go along with you being in a retreat that long. And so there are, yeah, there's definitely a lot of access to do that in the city. But also, like, we want to protect these medicines, so it's really important that this information gets into the hands of the people that have access to it, and it can work in a stronger template. Okay. Sorry, baby, come here.
She's like, you called me out.
I did, I'm sorry.
What advice would you give someone who's interested but hesitant about experiencing psychedelics?
I would ask why. Like, why do you think you need that? Why do you feel you need the experience? And hear that first, and then support them in doing it. Like, I just want to know, like, what is it about? Is it just to experiment? Like, is there some, like, are you wanting to go on a soul journey? Do you want to go deeper? Maybe we can just get you to the right one first, you know, instead of having to go through all of them to know. You know, and I think that really just takes time sitting with people and hearing, like, the why about it. For some people, just like myself, if I didn't hear the cancer piece about ayahuasca, I never would have tried. I just, in my mind, I'm just so open already. Like, I don't need help, you know, and it's, yeah, and I guess if they're hesitant, yeah, I'd ask why. The question to even try, that was the question you asked, like, being hesitant. Yeah, I would want to know where the fear is coming from. You know, like, well, why do you want to try it? And the why, like, why do you have fear about it? Like, what have you heard? And so I guess to dispel the myths, you know, and debunk the myths, but I can only do that from my own personal experiences with what I've tried. And because I haven't tried a lot of synthetic things, I couldn't really speak to that, but with the plant spirits, I can say that they will hold you gently if you go in with the proper intention. And so, like, really, you know, don't give up all your power to the plant spirit. Like, you know, you going in, and if you're hesitant, then you're not there to know yourself like that. So it's just really trying to gauge where you're at, because I've watched people get talked into a ceremony and they shouldn't have been there. And it's really damaging. And so at the same time, you know, I would say follow that. But don't, like, criminalize it or judge it because you fear it, you know, because it's just not for you. And that's a frequency thing. You know, the hesitation, the fear, some people overcome it, you know, but you want to see somebody else walk through it first, too. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. So, do you agree with the emphasis of setting an intention before an experience?
I think, because especially if you're working with a live spirit, it'll run you all over the place. If you don't know where you want to direct your energy, then it's just going to go where you let it take you. So you can imbibe mushrooms and have it take you on a bad experience and you're just crabby all. I've had that happen. or I've just like popped one in my mouth and just not conscious about it, didn't set an intention, just did it, and it was like I was crabby all day long because I didn't give it what it needed. Like I just basically took it for granted, you know. And so you get more from yourself when you, because you're coming into a relationship with it when you set an intention, and you're letting the medicine know what you want to experience with it. And so, yeah, I definitely say the intention is really important, you know, but depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. So how has cultivation impacted your relationship with mushrooms?
I never want to stop doing it. Just kind of like Steve. Yeah, cultivating them, I feel like they definitely have a consciousness that speaks through me. And I wouldn't have that had I not been able to cultivate them. And I think that everybody that has an interest in psychedelics should at least grow their own mushrooms. Because it's all you. Like, it's your relationship. You are putting the synergy into it, you're putting the intention into it, and you are learning from it. And that's the way to be in congruency with the earth and that plant spirit. And so, you know, we can buy anything, but to grow it and to share that growth that you grew is, I think, really important. Because you're getting a piece of the person that is providing that.
That's my cat.
Okay,
So one of them is in the bathroom.
Okay.
Because two of them fight. The kitten bullies the old man. So we gotta separate him because he doesn't have claws either.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's like, okay, I'm gonna...
I swear I just heard him say mom. And I'm like, what, you guys have kids? And I'm like, dang.
They're locked up.
Okay, they talking in there. Yeah. But yeah, I'm all for cultivation. I'm all for cultivating everything. If you can grow it, do it. Especially if you're going to be like carrying it in a way like that as a pharmacy or have an apothecary, do it. You know, so.
How do you feel about current mainstream psychedelic culture?
I really don't know what's going on.
No, okay.
You know, I don't. Not anymore, just because I stepped into working with it, you know, everything in a sacred way. Like, I'm here to learn actually kind of like what it's like too in myself, but what I knew it to be in, say, like the 90s, I didn't care for it back then. It just,
how would you
it was
describe
dirty. Like, I know the acid back then was really dirty. People were just kind of dirty. Just, the mentality was dirty. Like, people just weren't as evolved as we are now, consciously. Like, the 20-year-olds that I were hanging out with are you guys in your 20s?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you guys in your 20s were not conscious 20 years ago. You know, when I was growing up in the 90s, like, going to the clubs and going to raves and stuff, it was very, very different. And so, yeah, like, the rave scene is where I experienced most of my psychedelics. Or more, I say, I've never really eaten a lot of acid, but more experienced, like, people in that state. And it just wasn't good. Like, nobody was looking out for each other. People were getting hurt. Like, it just was irresponsible. And I think people deserve to have a good time if they're gonna experiment that way. And so, you know, it's good to have one person looking out, I think. But I don't know what it's like now.
Okay.
You know?
So things have definitely been kind of taken over by academia, I would say. So
What does that look like?
So I would say academia kind of controls the narrative in a lot of ways because these are the people that are granted access to even have the conversation in a legitimate way.
Wow.
So these are, you know, astute scholars that are able to have this conversation in an intellectual way, whereas other people are seen as, you know, like these psychedelic people that don't really know what they're talking about, just want to party. So that is kind of what we experienced at our first psychedelic conference.
Okay.
It was very lecture-based, very clinical-based, and focused on a lot of like the science behind it. And we kind of felt excluded from that space because we are not scholars, we don't have a PhD, but we still see ourselves as valid people able to have this conversation, and we have very valid insights.
Yeah.
So that kind of like pushed us out of that space, and we were like, okay, so how do we change this dominant force of academics in this space? Because that's not the only person that can talk about these things. So that's kind of what we were experiencing. It also being a very like whitewashed culture and kind of just moving out of its roots, I guess.
Right. Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it seems more and more like the first, or like a lot of my parents and like them, the first thing that they're hearing about with psychedelics is from like a scientific journal. Like that's the first thing they're learning, which I think is very counterproductive, personally, just because there's a very specific agenda. They are very specifically trying to make it a drug, trying to make it, pharmaceuticalized, and there's no, it's just weird. It's like weird when I'm like happy like my parents and older people that I've grown up with are talking to me about it,
right?
But then seeing that they're like all they know about it is all this scientific, really like hard data numbers, which is just weird to me. It doesn't, those things don't correlate,
right?
I don't, if I think about psychedelics, the science of it I really don't even care about.
Right.
I care about how it affects me, how it affects people,
right,
and how it does that. Whether like exactly what it's doing in my brain and all that it doesn't matter to me. What you get out of it is what matters.
Right.
In my opinion, at least.
Like the only scholars I would listen to on the topic of psychedelics, other than a shaman, is Dennis and Terrence McKenna. Validly so. Like they know both aspects of it, and like they can bring it all together, I think, for people really well that don't have a good grip on it. So, but yeah, it's weird to talk about in an academic setting because I don't know how to bridge those worlds really. So
and that's a little bit what we're trying to do with the conference, is have all these different perspectives kind of unite, and it's not just one thing, it's not just this, but can we all have a conversation together?
Yeah, because I really because from the academic standpoint, I want to know where the soul is in the equation. Because you can't quantify that. And so...
Yeah, and they do try to quantify mystical experience and things like that. Like, that is, like, a marker for, what you're getting out of it. And just, like, it's really interesting how they're trying to put it in that space, and it just kind of doesn't really make sense.
Right. Because there's that pivotal moment, like, when people have their breakthroughs, that's what you're going for, is that one aspect that that can change. And that's, I guess it's like turning a key almost, and that's what psychedelics can do. And I don't know that, I'll be really interested to listen to some of the academics that will be speaking, because I might have to sit in one of their workshops just to ask them, like, so when somebody has an epiphany or the light or the door opens, like, how do you gauge that in it? Because that's a soul thing. Like, how do you scientifically, like, determine the soul awakening in the conversation in academia? Because we can talk about it in the shamanic world, but like, how is the language being used?
And that's another thing, is there's a language difference too between like spiritual language and scientific language, and we're all saying the same things kind of, but there's just that disconnect.
Right. Yeah, like I would like to know how to talk about it, because science, it's sacred geometry, and so I'm so in the shamanic world about things, like, to step into that is just such a different world. I'm just going to be fascinated to probably try and keep up with them.
Yeah.
They're like people in there. What the heck?
Yeah, and another thing is in their like clinical trials they use synthetic psilocin, not actual mushrooms. So we always wonder like how does that change the experience, you know?
So,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things I learned about like alcohol is like when it gets through like its distillation process, it has a live spirit when it starts. That's why like mead and stuff like that and wines, there's still a live spirit. But when you like get into like the hard alcohols, like all that is removed from it, so it's called a dead spirit. And so that's like when you were telling me about synthetics, and I was like, oh, they're dead spirits. You don't get their natural synchronicity in nature. Like they're that design that like say a mushroom has or ayahuasca has. They grow all identical, the same. And so I think that's like when the synthetics like all the things that are off in them, you know, that's what's messing a lot of things up. But I forgot where I was actually going with that.
But the dead spirits.
The dead spirits. Thank you. Yeah, it's like the same thing. Like hard alcohol is a dead spirit. Like going to a synthetic, you cannot recreate nature. That's the synthetic. Like that isn't a spirit. It's a creation. Yes. So it has a spirit of the person that had the intent to create it, and whoever mixed it. But like. The mushrooms direct the people to grow them. You know, like people catch that frequency and it's alive. And so yeah, I guess I'll be interested to hear. I'm gonna have some interesting questions for the workshop.
I'm excited to hear your thoughts afterwards.
I'm like, whoa, my mind is like really blowing up right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And like, the thing like with the scientific language too is like we'll try to, you know, have these conversations with these people, but if you don't have that language, then you're kind of seen as like less than.
Right.
Or if you're using that spiritual language, then you're like, I don't really connect with you. So.
Oh, you're gonna have fun with me.
I'm excited to bring everyone to
I don't think it's
Yeah, not all, but
Yeah.
we've just had some experiences and so.
Yeah, like how. Because talking to you two is very natural about it. Like, I get that you understand how I'm speaking. So you two are actually bridge the worlds. You guys are actually just totally bridging the academic and the shamanic world. Because the other people that I'm going to come and invite, you know, like we all have our shamanic PhDs basically. And that's how I see it. And like, I have my own issues with K-12 academic universities and stuff, you know, and so I think we have a lot to really learn from each other and stuff, and to give validity to one another. I think that really, that credence has to like be expressed on both sides. So we need each other.
Yeah, we're not trying to shit talk on the academics or anything. But. You know.
But they will shit talk on us. Come on now.
So we poke at them a lot. They need it.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, ayahuasca will help with that ego. So. Gosh, okay, you're cutting that out.
No, we'll keep it.
Okay. I won't be surprised if it shows up in there. I'll be like, yeah, I said it.
So what does a ethical and sustainable psychedelic culture look like to you?
Oh. I think I'm still dreaming about that. I don't know yet. I'm just really going to be honest. I think we're just starting it. I think sitting here with you, both of you, is just the beginning. So I pray we can create that. That's my intention of being here. Like, how do we do that? You know, and our hearts have got to be open. We have to not poke at the academics. We have to not poke at No, we have to really just, I think, really respect each other's stance and where we stand. and that we're all stewards of this mission to bring legalization to things that are helpers in the world and that have been demonized by the demons themselves. So we just gotta call it what it is and really try and just talk through that. And, you know, because, yeah, my ideal vision is like we're all off out of the city in a commune growing mushrooms and all our own food and whatever else we need. And it all just functions because everybody knows they have a vital role in the sustainability and regeneration. So I think, that being said, that so decriminalization, you know, sustainability, accessibility, and the way to keep regenerating the medicine. So all those restorative justice work. And I think that's how the community has to run itself. But, you know, I don't know what that looks like. Just having conversations, I guess.
How do you feel about psychedelic tourism? So people traveling to a country for a
I think that's
cultural
good.
psychedelic experience.
I think that's good, especially if the medicine is like that's its original source. I feel like, yeah, go where the container is that it originates from. And, you know, it's no different than when people are here in the States and they go and they tour. You know, they will tour around the different communities and drop their tent, basically. And so, I mean, I guess it's the same. You know, you're going to have an experience, a retreat experience, or a good time, or even if it's like Burning Man, I don't know. But I think, yeah, you know, because there's a lot of people around you too. And I'd imagine if it's like tourism, then there's a tour guide of some sort that's going to be there. But yeah, do it. If it's going to give you access and open you up, go for it. You know? So I guess that's the same that's going on in Peru right now. You know, people go down there for the medicine, and that's still ayahuasca tourism. So, yeah.
So how do you feel about people experiencing ayahuasca outside of the ceremony?
Well, if you know your protocols. That's all, because I've done it, you know, so I can't say no. But I think that, you know, be aware of the risk. Anything can happen. Make sure you're confident and don't treat it like it's an LSD trip. It is a plant spirit. You stay in place and you make sure somebody's there with you. But like I said, I'd be remiss if I said don't go to Peru. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I've done it. So just be responsible. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can tell you what not to do. If something has free reign in the place that you are in, and if you can get it, then apparently the medicine or whatever it is wants to be here so that it's accessible. So just be responsible with it. It's just like drinking. I mean, but you know, if your intent isn't good, it can harm you. And so that's why I just say it's best to sit with somebody who knows. You know, it's, as we're fighting, we're going to be really working towards legalization and decriminalization. Those, when bad things happen, when people don't have a proper container, then that's what gives it the problematic status. You know, and we don't want that there anymore. So, yeah.
What type of local infrastructure can we strive for to kind of connect local healers to people in the community?
Oh, I think definitely inviting them to speak at your conference. And because this opportunity that you and Stieg are creating, like, well, it hasn't happened here before. And there are a lot of people in the medicine community in Minnesota, and I don't think a lot of people know that, how many healers actually are here. And so for you, yeah, to get maybe a resource guide going, and of some sort, so that everybody just kind of knows how to reach out or where to reach out to. And I think it was even being said at the open mic. Like, I feel like somebody said something.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get that resource going.
Is that something that people would be open to just for legal purposes? I'm just worried about, like...
I think, yeah. I mean, that is it. I mean, everything we do has to be so underground. But I think just having the conference, having the open mic, getting people in the same room, just to have the opportunity to connect. Because the opportunities to connect haven't been there. And so, you know, for me, at the open mic, that was the first time I was able to look into a room, and half the room was black and brown and white. Like, and I was just like, oh my God. Okay, this has to happen all the time. Like, and it just needs to grow. And I think that's kind of the way that we can get people in contact and use it as a networking opportunity. Because that's, I mean, I don't go in with the intent to do anything. I'm just going to contribute, you know, and so, but yeah. Yeah, just keep coming together.
Yeah.
That's wild, you guys.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share or talk about?
If I do, can I submit it later? Because I, you know, usually like when I do interviews or anything like that, like I have a lot that comes up afterwards.
Yeah.
And like I've sat with these questions and I was just like, I know there's more I want to share. I just, you know, it hasn't been triggered yet. And so, but I think, you know, definitely as we get closer to August, it's all going to start really coming up. And I think even after I have this conversation that I shared with you about my friend, like we're trying to emancipate these medicines, you know, and so I look at it that way, like they are kind of being held hostage. And so to give that part of its credence to that too, and how we can change the mind of those that are continuously monopolizing off of it and incarcerating people out of misguidedness, you know. The Freemasons know what they did. No, I'm sorry, you can cut that out.
We're keeping it all.
It's gonna be raw and uncut.
And you know what? If they'd be like, of course Korey said that. Yeah. So, but no, not yet. I will definitely. Yeah, if you have anything more for me too, you can always ask. I don't live that far away. I can come and do some more. But I am gonna like seriously link you up.